What's up guys, my name is Andrew and this is Motorcycles Off-Road, and in this video I want to break down and explain to you why I believe this Honda CRF300L Rally is a superior machine than the CRF450L or the 450RL when it comes to long distance travel, as far as BDRs, Trans-American Trail, any type of long distance travel that you're going to do. Now this question gets thrown in my comments frequently. I've had people say, hey, should I just buy this one over this one? Or I had people say, well, for the price of the upgrades that you're going to do to the Rally, I should just buy the 450L. I don't agree with that, and I'll break that down and I'll answer all these questions in this video. So if you're trying to build out an adventure type motorcycle, why I think the 300L Rally is probably the best out of the box set to do that task. So I made a little cheat sheet because if you guys are anything like me, I like to see things visually in front of me. So I'll show you guys the information and the specs that I feel are most important for this type of travel. And let's go over some of these and we can flesh out exactly how it works on paper in black and white. So number one, I want to put here the skill required. And the reason why I want to talk about the skill required is because I feel like this is one of the most important ones, particularly for somebody who's just starting out or might not watch the whole video. This is a point that we should get out of the way first. And that point is the 300L or the 300L Rally is a beginner motorcycle all the way up to you can have fun as an expert. Whereas the 450RL, I feel like is maybe at the top of the scales of intermediate to expert. That is something that's important as far as not hurting yourself, as far as making it back from the trail without injury to the bike or once again yourself. So let's dive a little bit deeper. Let's first talk about where these engines come from. The 300L actually comes from the CBR or a modified 250 engine. It's basically a road bike. And because it's a road bike, it's very friendly. They both have 6-speed transmissions, which is great. But the L and the Rally also have a slipper clutch, which allows for aggressive downshifting, as well as a mild power band to long distance traveling, not charging ahead, something like the 450RL has. Now the 450RL is a modified 450R, which is a motocross race engine. So it just wants to be reamed out, charging ahead the whole time. And the reason why I say this is dangerous for a newer rider is because yes, maybe you've rode like your buddy's leader bike and you were able to take off and stop at the stop sign and go around the block with no issues. Maybe you ride something very powerful off-road, on road. But once you start to get off-road, and if you do not have the correct throttle discipline as far as when you're hitting whoops or when you get knocked off course or exactly how much throttle to accelerate the bike to do the proper task as far as whatever the obstacle is, it's very easy to get thrown off a track. And it's very easy for your wrist to bump and throw the bike into the tree. Now, the thing is with the RL, it will do that very easily. It's got a lot of power and it's going to come on quick and it's going to be jerky and it will slam you right off trail if you're not careful. Now, I shit you not, in real life with my own ears, I have heard someone say, if the dork in the road guy can ride it, then I can ride it. Because he's actually riding a 450L, I believe. And I would have to say, take a step back and think about somebody with that thought process. What you're actually saying is you're like, I look at this man and I look at his age and I look at his physical appearance and I believe that anything he can do, I can do just because maybe I'm more fit or I'm younger. And that is absolutely a wrong way of thinking, and that is presumptuous and arrogant. You will get yourself hurt. Now this man, the dork in the road guy, Ben, he actually is a very experienced rider. I know he's very modest and he says I'm not a good rider, but he's been riding a long enough time that he knows what situations he can handle and what situations he can't and how to handle things at his own speed, which is the most important thing. Now, take a look at his history. He started off with a 250L. He had a DRZ 400. He's rode various larger bikes, and he's also done like class for larger bikes. So you have to understand that this guy is a very experienced rider, and he's very experienced at knowing what he himself can handle. And as I said before in my top tips video, that knowing that you can complete the obstacle is one of the most important parts of doing the obstacle. If you are unsure about it and you get halfway through it and you get a little sketched out and you start to do something weird like put your foot down or maybe you're a little light on the throttle, then you will not be able to get through the obstacle. And that's only amplified with a vehicle that is faster, the throttle comes on quicker, and you're carrying a lot of weight because we're talking about long distance travel. Next, the seat height, that's all depending on you, right? If you're taller, if you can handle the 37.1 inch seat height or over the 35 inch seat height, that's fine. It's inseam. The thing that you have to consider is the more luggage you have on the motorcycle, when you start to tip, when you do catch yourself, it's better to be closer to the ground if you do not have the inseam to support that, especially if you're off camber, because the motorcycle will feel exponentially heavier when it's further out of line. You know, when you start to tip this bike over and now you had, you know, it took you longer to reach the ground, you know, with that extra 2 inches of inseam. So that's just something to think about, so I threw that in there. The next big one is the oil change intervals. The Rally and L have 8,000 miles on their oil change. Now, do I do that? Of course not. But what that does mean is that you can do the entirety of the Trans-American Trail, 3,500 miles, on one oil change. Now, I did watch other YouTube videos where people were doing parts of it with L, and they were changing their oil every 700 to 800 miles. Maybe it was 600, and they were doing it in like parking lots, or they were taking it to shops. That's really annoying. There's a price to pay for all that performance, and the service intervals is one of the prices that you pay on something like an RL. All right, next is the weight. Now there's something to consider about the weight here. There should be an asterisk to it. We have 331 pounds on the Rally. Now the L's only 309, but the L doesn't have the big fuel tank. And then you got 289 on the RL. Now, one point I want to make is that no matter what on the RL, you'll see as we get further down the list, you're going to want to put a bigger gas tank on it. And when you do add more fuel, you're adding more weight along with the tank. So you're going to be closer to 300, maybe a little bit more. So you're looking at about a 30-pound difference between the 300 Rally versus the RL at the end of the day. The 30-pound difference is very important if you're doing enduro riding and stuff like that. It's not so important when you're traveling long distance. You already have your gear on there. That percentage of that extra weight starts to shrink as an overall percentage of the weight of the vehicle. I don't think it's that important, but I wanted to put the numbers here because it is something you could talk about. Now, I did get some criticism for this little part. I put it in my my 300L review video, or 300 Rally review video rather, where I talked about how the RL or the 450 may just not be the tool for the job, and I explained it like this. If you're trying to do BDRs, the Trans-American Trail, stuff like that on a 450 RL or a KTM 500, yeah, you can do it. No one will stop you. But to me, that's like saying you're going to go banging a nail with a screwdriver. I mean, it can be done. It doesn't mean you should do it. I'm like, hey guys, that's the wrong tool to bang into the nail. There's a tool for that. It's called a hammer. And they're like, no, I don't want to use a hammer. I prefer to carry a lighter tool, so I use a screwdriver. Okay, fine. But the 300 Rally is marginally more efficient at these tasks, just like the hammer is to the nail. So what are you really getting for all that extra weight? Well, fuel efficiency, fuel capacity, reliability, wind protection, and long service intervals. That's a lot. The 300 Rally can be compared to those other bikes, but just know the Rally is for a different purpose, and the extra weight will not be a problem for people who use the Rally for what it's actually designed for. And I just like to have a little fun sometimes and put like stupid stuff like that in there. Okay, now let's talk about fuel capacity. Now, right out of the gate, the Rally has a 3.4 gallon tank, which is 12.87 liters. That's very important. That means you don't need a bigger tank. That's plenty enough fuel that it can carry. And, you know, people are taking Rotopacks and stuff like that if you want to, yes, but that's, on a lot of times, that's going to get you pretty far. Now, the 450 only has a 2 gallon tank. Going to have to be upgraded. Now that's further perpetuated by the fuel efficiency. Now the 300L, because it's not like a race engine, it's more of a road engine, gets, on average, it was taken, I think, 240 samples. It got 73.16 miles per gallon, or 117 kilometers per gallon, whereas the 450 only got 49. So under 50, let's just round up to 50. You're looking at 248 miles between fill up, or 400 kilometers in the case of the Rally. When you move over to the RL, which is 98.8 or 159 kilometers, which of course, like I said, you're going to have to put a bigger tank on the RL. Then when you talk about upgrades, you might be able to get away with the 450 stock suspension, although I don't know if you will, because depending on how much gear you put on there and how big you actually are, you might feel you hit the limitation of that suspension. Now, with the suspension on the Rally, you absolutely will be replacing it. I guess the point I'm trying to make is in scenarios for both of these motorcycles, you're probably going to do the suspension. Either way, as far as upgrades. Both vehicles, you're going to need pannier racks, right? Your bags, maybe a tank bag, and then at least for the 450, you're going to need a bigger tank. So that brings us to the MSRP. Now, when I hear people saying, well, for the price difference, I might as well, or the upgrade difference, I might as well just get the 450. And I think that's completely incorrect. So you have a $6,000 MSRP, $6,099 versus a $9,999. And also you're going to pay shipping freight, like the shipping freight cost. You're going to pay assembly, dealer markup, your personal taxes in your area. And you're looking at both of these vehicles are probably going to be $1,500 to $2,000 more than the MSRP. That's it, right? But when it comes to upgrades and you're saying, well, I have to upgrade the Rally, you know, you're looking at $700 rear suspension, and you're looking maybe $100 spring in the front so you can even out your suspension so it's super tough for your weight and your gears weight. And then that's about it, paying your racks. The 450 though, so this has been accounted on so many different channels. You have to do an ECU and exhaust, or this bike will stall on you constantly, and it's high compression. So when you're going low speed travel, you're cutting corners like single track, like real tight, slow speed, the bike will flame out. It'll cut off and it'll almost throw you off the bike because such high compression, it won't keep rolling. So you're like da 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 da, and okay, I just dropped my bike. And this is annoying. You're picking it up over and over again. Well, the price to fix all this on top of the MSRP could be another $2,000. Well, you need an exhaust, you need an ECU, and well, fuel mapping. So added to that, you also need the fuel tank and the pannier racks and everything that you needed for the Rally. So I think, based on rough estimate, at the out the door and all the upgrades you need to do something with the 450L to get it as far as a BDR Traveler Trans-American Trail, you're looking at $14,000. And I'm thinking somewhere around the Rally, you're looking at out the door probably $7,500. And then your suspension, which is like $750 for the rear, $100 for the front. So I don't know, $85 after the pannier racks. So it's much more money still for the 450 package. Now, of course, I also would like to add a front tooth to the sprocket of the Rally. That's very inexpensive. I like to go with an X-ring chain and an ECU and exhaust. ECU is going to cost you $150 for the flash from 550 Performance. Exhaust, Black Widow's $200, and then I like to put in a nice intake from DNA or K&N. Then your bike's completely different, feels a lot better, you have a lot more power, and you can maintain highway speeds if you ever need to on these type of travels. So that's about $8,500 to $8,700 total on the Rally versus $14,000 on the 450. And this is why I think out of the box, the 300 Rally is the best machine you could possibly get to start doing these type of rides. I also think, as I did my review for the DRZ400, if you're taller, maybe you can build out a DRZ400 to also do this task. It's got good reliability as well, and it's tried and true, so that might be an option for you. And you can get them used for relatively cheap, $5,000, $4,000 if you're lucky. So a DRZ might be an option for you. But out of the box, the best option I think is the 300L Rally. So that's my opinions. If you guys disagree, let me know in the comments below. Constructive criticism is always welcome. I'm fine with that. If you just think I should die and you want to tell me that in the comments, well, I might block you. That happens all the time. This is YouTube. I mean, people say the worst horrendous stuff. But in any case, you guys are awesome for watching this long. My name is Andrew. Stay safe out there, get out riding, and have a good weekend. Thanks, guys.